As said before, guys, you're not going to see a score down here at any point. I may end up adding a score into the overlay if it gets too confusing for people, like I did last season. And goodbye, meal, I guess. I'm not sure if they'll remake. We'll give this a second to find out. Oh, I apparently need to up my volume a little bit too. Let me just go sort that real quick before we start casting here, guys. Alright. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Acer Team Story Cup Season 3 Qualifiers. Very first game, very first series of the season. I'm Rifkin, joined today by Zombie Grub, and spawning here in the southern location on Polar Night, representing IVD Gaming, it's going to be the Red Zerg player, Gamja.
And in the top position, as the blue Protoss player, it is Abomb, representing mYinsanity.
Now, some pretty good teams matched up, guys. Only 4 today can qualify, and I think there's about 12 plus teams or something that are competing, so it's going to be a pretty tight race. There's some clear winners in some of the brackets, and some more, I guess, even matchups on some of the other sides. For example, IVD's got some really talented players, and as long as they play on North America, I think they've got a pretty good chance. But as much as I love IVD, and I've got a lot of respect for players like Zerg Zing Zing and Puck and Ruff, etc., the reality is mYinsanity has Jakshi, they've got Stardust. Well, they're not coming out early with their heavy hitters. It's kind of like, well, you get through the tough parts of mYinsanity for the even tougher parts of mYinsanity.
Yeah, I would give it to mYinsanity as well. I mean, yeah, you listed a lot of good players, and certainly those players have taken games off of, you know, Jakshi and all the really great players in mYinsanity. But it would just be really... I guess it would be odd to see any of these, like, not so famous teams actually in the Acer Team Story Cup.
No, it would be cool. Like, I mean, for IVD Gaming, like, that's how you really put your mark on the map.
Yeah,
like, in a big way.
Sure. It'd just be weird to see mYinsanity, who I guess used to be that team that didn't really have a lot of big name players, but they had some really solid players, and they hadn't really done anything. You know, they pretty much started really getting famous after Stardust's run at DreamHack. And then, of course, picking up Jakshi, and he just, I don't know, he just made the team, like, you know, really, really great. So, it would just be sad, I guess, to see them not in Acer Team Story Cup. But it would be really cool for IVD.
Let's not forget, Abomb's kind of the, I don't know, I want to call him like the ultimate underdog. You remember when he got invited to the tournament and everyone, or not this tournament, but like everyone was talking down, like, I can't believe they gave a spot to Abomb, like IEM or whatever it was. And, you know, it's like, he showed everybody up, taking out Koreans. He's a pretty talented player. I remember watching him a lot in the beta. So, I mean, specifically focusing on these two guys, it's worth noting that while today's a best of 9 between these two teams, essentially every game today is going to be a best of 1. And while we can say players like Jakshi and Stardust are the clear favorites in today's matchup, the reality is I've seen Jakshi and Stardust both die to absolutely no-name players in like Go for StarCraft and Zotek in the past. So, not to call it IVD Gaming, you no-name players by any means, I'm just saying it's very, very possible for them to take them out in a best of 1 scenario.
Yeah. I definitely, I feel the same way. I think, you know, players like Puck can definitely take down one or more games from really good players, and that's probably honestly what they're hoping for. I mean, they did throw out Gamja, who, you know, he is actually a Korean first, but he hasn't really shown, you know, top level play, I'd say.
Well, you know what, though? One thing I'm kind of hoping to come down to today, because, of course, guys, the nice thing about this matchup is you can kind of pick and choose. There is a lot of strategy involved with the Acer Team Story Cup, which is what, A, makes it more interesting to watch, and B, makes it more, like, there's a little bit more, I wouldn't call it mind games, I guess, but strategy when it comes to picking who is up against who.
Yeah.
But, ooh, Stargate coming in Abomb pretty quick here. This is, worth noting, guys, this is being played on the North American server. Abomb, of course, from Ireland, and Gamja coming from Korea, so it's kind of the middle ground for both of these players. Not all surprised that Abomb's elected to go for a Stargate instead of something a little bit more, I guess, micro-intensive early on, like force fields. Because the last thing you want to do is, no matter how talented of a player you are, you don't want lag to factor into your build. And trying to place force fields down with even like a millisecond of delay can sometimes just be the worst of the experience.
I also like Stargate openers because they don't rely at all on surprise. I mean, you literally show your Phoenix to the first Overlord you can possibly find, right? As opposed to a 3-gate or 4-gate, which, you know, you kind of want them not to expect, so you can at least get some damage done, because if it just gets shut down hard, then you're kind of in a, you know, in a tough spot. And Polar Night's kind of an easy map to scout. I mean, yeah, Gamja doesn't have that second Overlord off to the left to also suicide in, but this one just got the complete scout. Plus, you can scout both the gases on the low ground fairly easily if you get the Overlord back there. Oh, he actually throws down all the gateways in the sight of the Overlord?
I think at
would've
this
waited a
point,
little longer.
well, I don't know. The Overlord probably, or the Zergling saw the Forge putting out +1.
Yeah, I mean,
First blood.
Gamja would have been able to figure it out some other way, but you know, now he knows for sure. It's like,
Yeah.
3 gateway, you could definitely put on some pressure.
Yo, Gamja too, I want to just give a nod to this guy. Back when he was in Quantic Gaming, we cast him a couple of show matches and a couple of team events, and I'm just thinking, like, his PVZ was kind of really, really good. I'm not sure how it is now, because it feels like a lot of players, and I'm not making the Protoss jokes, guys. I'm not even going to go with the race imbalance or balance sort of talks, but, like, Protoss versus Zerg has kind of turned around in the matchup in a big way, because a long time it was really one-sided where you would see the exact same builds every single time, every single day, but already seeing a bit of a deviation in Gamja's build, having going for the melee upgrades, investing in that rather than going straight to Hydras and Roaches.
Yeah, it's odd to see this, not because he has the Roach Warren out, but because usually when you get melee upgrades, you're also getting Carapace upgrades, you know, at the same time. Really, the only time we see one upgrade is missile attack. And it's even odder now because you just see they're on a Hydralisk Den.
What I'm thinking is his reactions right now. So, like, these early Phoenix, if he knows if he goes for a lot of Hydros early on, they're going to get picked apart by the Phoenixes, picked up one at a time, etc. He may just be looking to do this big flood of Lings and hope that there's simply not enough Graviton being energy to pick them all up. It's my best guess,
possible.
at least. I mean, I'm just trying to...
I think what he's gonna do is go for a Ling Hydra. I think the Roach Warren was just because he saw gateways down and he hadn't technically scouted the 3rd yet. He sent a Ling over there when the Roach Warren was about half done. You know, may as well finish it. But yeah, I think
yeah, there's Group Spines.
Ling Hydra is gonna be the attack of choice. It's a very powerful attack, especially if you can get, you know, all your Hydras out before the Phoenix can pick them up. And of course before Colossus are out, which you're not going to be. He's gonna have an Immortal,
Ooh,
not gonna help.
He clearly sees this pylon coming down here too with that Overlord.
Yeah, that's kind of a... I don't know, it seems an obvious place without an Overlord. I'm surprised he hasn't killed it, actually.
No, Lings are
He
in
did
there
his
now.
dear job.
Alright, they'll take that out. Spire on the way to follow this up. You know, it's kind of interesting too, because we've seen a lot of... I don't know, you see a Phoenix play opening up, and some Zerg players will often respond by completely ignoring the air tech path, and some players like Ace or Bly, for example, will just go straight on and meet you with Mutalisks and Corruptors, but Gamja... I like that he's getting that sort of option available to him. Not something he's necessarily going to go to as he's investing Hydralisk and Lings, as you pointed out, but it's always good to have that window of opportunity instead of 5 minutes later, we're like, wow, I really wish I had a Spire.
I'm pretty sure he's gonna go for Mutalisk. Ling Hydra, since you don't get that extra gas in her Roaches, it's a powerful attack that can really strongly go into Muta Ling. And of course, he's also double expanding, which also tells me that he's preparing to get those mutas. That's what you do when you have mutas. When you have that map control, you can go ahead and double expand. But the option's always there just to go for Corruptors if he really is scared that, you know, mutas aren't going to go work. And actually, we have a second Stargate, so mutas probably would not be the greatest thing right now.
Well, that's really nice too for a Protoss player. Like, you may not actually end up using this Stargate, guys, but having the option of building a second Phoenix, like being able to chrono out 2 Phoenixes at a time in response to Mutalisks once you're already behind in that regard is critically important in this matchup. So right now, this may end up being a wasted investment, but this will pay off later on, guaranteed. And it's gonna, it is gonna be a mix of Corruptors and Mutalisks. So I was kind of expecting one or the other, because you know, when you go for Hydras, you show your Hydras, you're gonna have to expect Colossus. They're going to be out at some point. You can't really assume that a Protoss player is going to skip past that tech. But to go for both, this kind of tells me that he's really hoping Abomb is going to invest more heavily into the air.
Oh, the Hydralisk gonna cut him off. So close now. It's hard to call that because eventually you will need Corruptors to deal with the Phoenixes, especially if they have 2 Stargates, as we know, but you know, Gamja doesn't. By getting the Corruptors, you know, you're guaranteeing you can fight the Phoenixes here and there. If you don't, I feel like you're relying on that surprise element of shutting down the gateway, the Stargates, before they can pump out any more Phoenixes, which is kind of a risky maneuver to do.
Well, we got the fleet beacon on the way, so we are going to be dancing into those air upgrades here in a moment with Alien Pulse Crystals as well to follow this up. Phoenixes on mass can be really good, guys. I mean, you've seen cheesy versions of this in ladder matches and various Go for Starcrafts, where you'll see some players go like 20 plus Phoenixes, but the reality is, like, Corruptors can be, well, not exactly the best damaging unit for the Phoenixes. They're such a good buffer for Mutalisks. Just be able to soak those hits is critical.
Yeah, it's gonna be really difficult though. You know, every single time I see the fleet beacon before any muta damage has been done at all, and there hasn't been any muta damage except taking up Zealots, which doesn't count really. It usually goes in the Protoss' favor heavily. Like, dealing with Anion Pulse crystals and air upgrades and double produced phoenixes is just so hard. Your corruptors, you know, they always lag behind, so free damage is on the mutas. It really depends on if the phoenixes are caught out of control or out of position.
I thought he was gonna go for that Stargate. I mean, the entire Phoenix army of A-Bomb's way over here.
And if he has the corruptors with the mutas, then he can actually take the fight with the phoenixes. It's when the other army comes.
Hydra's on the ground are gonna get taken out by this Colossus really quick, but their job is to take out as many Stalkers as they can before this fight goes down. Corruptors, of course, in retreat now, and Gamja, you know, I think he really wanted to dedicate to that attack, but wasn't expecting this heavy of a response. Oh man, he's taking 2 more hatcheries behind this, by the way, guys, just worth noting. Gamja is taking the entire map.
I like that, though. I mean, you see them double expand, but I really like that he's taking literally the entire map, like every single base that he can.
Yeah, even if he doesn't mine from it, it blocks A-Bomb from taking those bases.
Yeah, even if he kills it, it takes forever to get that creep away, right? Like, it's always something to complain about.
A little bite to the main?
Yeah, not really worthwhile. Yeah, right.
Holy crap. Middle of the map, we got some fight going down too. Colossus, one Colossus does go down, but the Phoenixes are here to zone the army out. While the Corruptors might just be a meat shield versus the Phoenixes, they are effective against these Colossus guys, so these are not wasted units by any means. And as we see, the finesse for Gamja is to keep these Mutas behind the Corruptors at all times. But Onion Pulse Crystals are not done yet. These Phoenixes are finding it very difficult to fight. Does manage to drive Gamja back one more time, though.
Yeah, that was, I mean, it took down, you know, a lot of high power units like the 2 Colossus, but it's still, I mean, look at the supply, it's still not that bad, and Gamja still is really focusing on mutas. There's no Roach Hydra tech switch or anything, or a huge flood of lings, as you usually do when you kill the Colossus, so A-Bomb still has the appropriate, you know, he's getting Phoenixes, pretty much, right?
The one thing I'm worried about, though, he's got no Blink Tech, he's got no Templar, he's got no Storms, he's got no Archons, he's got no easy way to deal with this massive
that is worrying. Because you can't just depend on Phoenixes. Yeah, they'll deal with the mutas, but eventually Gamja is either gonna like overpower them with the amount of corruptors or just
flood them with lings. I mean,
yeah, or flood them with lings. Exactly. Like you need something else, and actually, without the Archons to cover the amount of corruptors that Gamja has is like, I think he's like had more corruptors than mutas most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's 21 to 12 right now, and it's working out fine. The last couple cannons gonna go down at this third. Really, I mean, what could A-Bomb have done here other than build like 4 cannons? Because that's such a he doesn't have the mobility from Stalkers, he doesn't have the damage from Archons. He's got no real easy way to deal with this. And as we see, creep has been spread crazy throughout the map. Every base has been taken. A-Bomb's gonna be on 4 bases, guys. And in most scenarios, you think, wow, Protoss player's absolutely fine on 4 bases, but he's got no answer to this air.
Yeah. I think what he was expecting was Gamja going a lot heavier into mutas. Usually it's a lot of mutas with like 5 to maybe 10 corruptors rather than mostly corruptors. So he really, I feel, maybe needed to want to go up to not just blink faster, but also directly up to Archon so that they couldn't go over his army and snipe the Colossus and the Phoenixes without repercussions.
Speaking of repercussions, Zealots and Immortals, while not the most effective things right now, are still going to be necessary for holding the ground defenses. Giving them away like this, I mean, A-Bomb, I understand the Stalker's moving out, but this is kind of rough. Good game's going to be called. Ladies and gentlemen, IVD's Gamja will take game number 1 and put his team up 1-0 in this best of 9.